Hello and welcome to One Called Mama. I am your host, Sam, and I am so thankful that you decided to join us today. I am very happy to present you all with Azure. She is a lovely woman that I met at the Behind Her Brand conference. And we hit it off. We were sitting at the same table, and I'm just really excited to share. She has a lot that the Lord is showing her and doing in her, and I'm just really excited to share just a piece of her story today. Azure, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Samantha. I completely am appreciative and I feel humbled and honored to be here in this space with you.
Yes, no, I'm the humbled one. I'm every time someone like accepts an invitation to be on the show, I'm always like, oh, yay. I always get a little bit giddy. So it's so exciting to have you on. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am Azure. I lead by saying I'm a mother of five because I like to think that that's one of my bravest feat. Like one
Mm,
of the things that I've done in life that will completely leave a lasting impact on the world.
yep.
Um, I am also a life coach, a relationship coach to be precise. I also by day work with students who have special needs, and that is also a joy of mine. And I'm here with you in this moment.
I love it. It takes a very special person to do what you do with the special needs at school and everything. My sister-in-law does that, and I just think that is really neat that you do that. Side note.
Thank, thank you. It is quite a job. It is not for the faint of heart, I will say. It requires being able to take a lick and keep on ticking.
Mm. Yeah, it does. I've heard stories. Yep, for sure. So there's a lot that we could go into today with
Mhm,
you and what God's doing in your life. But specifically, we're going to talk about the book you wrote, A
mhm.
Lust for Love. And when did you write this?
I wrote the book, I'd say, beginning of 2021.
Okay.
I published the book in 2023,
Mhm.
and it was quite a journey.
Ooh, I bet. So
Mhm.
without giving too much of the book away, just kind of give us like a brief synopsis of what the book is about.
So I'd say the book is about a young girl who happens to be myself,
Mm.
who lusted for love. Um, I changed the names of my character to protect my family members. But I call myself Zoe in the book.
Mm.
And Zoe's journey is intricately connected to her grandmother and her mother, both of which struggled with drug abuse and sexual abuse as teenagers growing up. And I found myself also in the same cycle.
Mm.
So I really wrote the book to make it more of a therapeutic project, like a cathartic writing where I could emote on paper. And I didn't realize that I was going to be uncovering a lot of trauma and pain. So the book discussed my how my mother conceived me
Mm.
and how no one wanted my mother to have me. And yet my uncle, which is my mother's brother, told my mother that he was going to help her raise me. So that gave my mom hope to continue with her pregnancy.
Mm.
And shortly after, my mother wrestled with drug addiction. And my uncle was basically, I call him my Uncle Dad, but he's a hero in my
Mm.
story. And he still is to this day. He's still a father to me. So the story is about a little girl's journey and how she's impacted by all of these challenges in her upbringing, but also how she overcame them. I It's only book one, so I haven't gotten into the story of all that has been revealed since. That's in book number two. But it talks about it's really more so about the hard parts, about the parts where I had to uncover a lot of my own trauma
Mm.
and be brave enough to sit in it and then experience transformation.
Mm. That. That is so good. And what you just said, be brave enough to sit in it. I've talked about on this show before how we need to have emotional endurance. So,
Mhm.
in other words, that we don't run from the difficult things that we're feeling and facing, that we actually, instead of running from them, we confront them, we feel them, we
Mhm.
allow ourselves to feel whatever it is we're feeling and get through the emotion. And I think what you're saying is so good and so good to be reminded of, that things from our past, things that
Mhm.
we're dealing with now, it only prolongs the pain. You have to,
Absolutely.
at some point, you have to decide, am I ever going to confront this, or am I going to continue to push this off or run from this? Because one way or another, you end up facing it. But
Mhm.
I like that you faced it on your terms.
Mm. Yes, I have to say, after I wrote the book, I couldn't read it.
Mm,
It wasn't someone else's story, it was mine. And there was actually a time when I was writing the book, my mother told me her story about how she was gang raped. And first off, I have to say, my mother is one of the bravest women that I know.
mm,
Her story is not perfect. Her journey is not has it hasn't been flowery beds of ease. However, I call her an overcomer. So when she was telling me about the story when she was gang raped, and my biological father was a part of it, um, I let's just say when I got off the phone with my mother, I broke down in tears, but I knew I had to write it right away because it was fresh.
mm,
So I picked up my pen and I started writing. And maybe within a good 30 minutes, I would put it down and I would cry. And then I would pick up my pen again after I wiped my tears and I would keep writing. And it was like that as for the completion of that chapter. But then I thought, wow, to think my mother would actually be willing to share that part of her story with me for the people that she knows is going to pick up the book and read it in hopes that she would inspire someone else to be brave and courageous and know that they can experience healing for themselves.
yeah. I and if it's okay, I would like to say too, to add to that, when you told me that she made the difficult decision to have you,
Hmm.
knowing how you were conceived, that
Hmm.
she was so brave and so strong to stand her ground. Because it's so easy for when you have outside pressure to give in,
Hmm.
to not take that stance. And I think that she said, no, I'm doing this, and I'm going to do, because I know this is right. And she had you. I think that is worth, pointing out how strong she was to do that and make that choice.
I agree, which is why my book opens up with the story of her conversation with my uncle and her mom
Mm,
and dad, and how the family was not for it. And when I think about it on the outside, my mother wrestled with drugs. So the the concern was legitimate. Like,
mm,
how are you going to raise a child? And what if this child comes out handicapped? And
mm,
it's a legitimate concern. But then my mother, she made the decision that she was going to stop using, that she was going to get herself cleaned up. My uncle said he was in the army at the time, sorry, the Air Force at the
mm,
time, and he said, Terry, I'm receiving checks and I'm not using them. They feed me on the base. I live on the base. I'm going to send you the checks so that you
wow.
can go get health care and take care of all of your needs. Like, that is the epitome of love. So even though the book is called A Lust for Love, there was all this evidence of pure love all around me
Mm,
that wasn't experienced until I became a full grown adult.
wow. Wow. So when you were writing the book and
Mhm.
you're uncovering all of these things, right? You're going through a lot of difficult stuff, both from your past and from your families. You said that you just said it was surrounded by love and surrounded by in other words, if I may make the assumption,
Mhm.
surrounded by God's hand.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So what are some of those without, I want people to read your book. I don't want to give away like all the like the good stuff,
Mhm,
but in your life, just as a whole, what were some key moments that you just kind of took a step back and like, wow, God, that was cool.
mhm. Wow. So there was a time when I was about, I want to say I was 15 going on 16. And I was living with my mother in Compton. And I just knew that life would not be experienced for me very long if I didn't make a change.
Mm.
And I had two little sisters. So I have two younger sisters. I had a grown man in my bedroom, and my sisters went to my window to look inside. And I saw them while I'm in the room with this grown man looking and peeking in my window. And I thought, if I don't change my life, I'm going to be responsible for their demise. I have to change my life because my little sister Chelsea wanted to be just like me. Like she did everything I did. She copied, my steps. I would even dare to say she worshiped the ground that I walked on. She's 6 years younger than me. So and then she would kiss me with her little crusty lips. And I mean, I knew that I would be responsible for their demise. And I knew where I was going if I didn't change soon, that I would wind up dead on the streets because there was a lot of gang violence where I lived. I was late hanging out at parties that were getting shot up.
Mm.
I mean, you name it. The drugs, all the things were happening around me, and I knew that I needed to change. So I would say that was the first awakening for me. And shortly after that, God began with my the yearning of my heart to order my steps toward that. So I went with my grandmother to visit my uncle's home. He was out of town and he had dogs. So we went to go feed his dogs. And I walked around he lived at the time in a condominium.
Mhm.
And I walked around and I said, Grammy, I need to be here. I need to move and I need to be here.
Mm.
And she said, well, then you need to have a conversation with your uncle and your mother. And I said, well, if I tell my mom that I want to move, because technically I was helping her raise my siblings, because my mom was a single mom. My mom has never been married. We all have different fathers. I don't know my biological father. So a lot of the residual needs fell upon me,
Right.
if that even makes sense as a teenager. So I will look after my sisters from my mom and such things of that nature. So when I told my grandmother that I wanted to live with my uncle, I thought I would break my mom's heart, especially because my mom would constantly say, "Having you changed my life."
Mm.
Like that's her narrative even to this day. So I called my did I call my uncle first? I want to say I called my uncle first and I asked him. And he said yes right away, like no big deal.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, now the truth will the telltale sign will be if my mother is in agreement. And as soon as I asked her, she gave me a definitive yes.
Wow.
So that was the next, I would say, the number two mark of God beginning to change my trajectory,
Mhm.
taking me out of the environment that I was in, giving me a new, something different, a new outlook, because life with my uncle was vastly different. He taught me how to be a woman. He
Mm.
took me fine dining. Like I love to eat out to this day. Thanks, Uncle. Um, he just showed me the ways that a woman is supposed to be treated, and it changed my life. And I know that God was the one that ordered my steps, because even then, shortly after, I was a senior in high school, and that's when my cousin invited me to church and where I had my first ever experience with the Lord. So all of that was adding up to that
I
moment.
want to take a step back and I want to talk about you getting your book published. And for all of the listeners out there who maybe have a book on their heart, maybe they have already started writing,
Mm,
but they don't really know what to do with it, or maybe it's more of a diary. And maybe God is starting to kind of nudge them in the whole publishing direction. And they're kind of like, oh, I don't know about that. Because it's scary, right? When God's like, hey, we're going to actually do this. And you're like, no, 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 this was not the plan. You said you wrote the book 2021 and it published 2023. Can you kind of talk
Yes.
about, um, it took 2 years. Can we unpack, what happened in those 2 years on getting it published? Was that just you kind of being God working on you to publish it? Was that how long it took just to get it out there? Kind of explain to us what that looked like.
When my mother told me the story about my when she was gang raped, I put the book down for a few months.
Mhm.
I just couldn't emotionally. I believe I needed to unpack
Mhm.
a lot of the trauma that lived in my blood that wasn't even mine. And so I took time to really focus on healing Azure. Like, what does it mean for Azure to be whole and healed? Writing a book requires extreme vulnerability and truth telling. A lot of times, people rather stay on the surface of their own lives. They'd rather kind of experience the whimsical aspect of life or the joy and the beauty. And I would even dare to say, not realizing how powerful it is to process pain, how healing and liberating, how freedom is on the other side of it.
Mhm.
So when it came to writing my own book, I had to process a lot of the pain. But I had a mentor. Her name is Zara, and she is amazing. I mean, I love her.
Mhm.
I, I mean, yes, I could go on and on about Zara. But she sat with me. She cried with me.
Mhm.
She listened to me. She was patient with me. She never judged me. She never rushed me. She took her time to even pray for me. So I say it's important to have someone sit with you in those challenging moments when you are just saying to yourself, enough is enough. I or even when you ask yourself questions like, who would even want to read my story?
Mhm.
Why is my story even worth telling? There's millions of stories, but the reality is that your story is only one.
Mhm.
Like, you have your own unique story. No one else has it,
Mhm.
and only you can tell it. And to be able to muster up the courage to think about the one person, I thought about, what if there's one person, just one, not millions, who picked up my book randomly, and I never met this person in my life,
Mhm.
but they read my book and it changed their life. Let's say they feel like they're too dirty to enter the presence of God.
Mhm.
And they read my story and saw, oh no, if God could show this woman kindness, if he could extend mercy to her, surely he could do the same thing for me. That was my why. So I'd say it's important to have someone journey with you, but what's even more important is having a very powerful why and attaching that why to a who. Who? Who would you love to sit down and have a conversation with that you may never meet on this side of heaven,
Yeah.
and their life can be changed because you had the courage and you took the time to write out your story, and it leaves a lasting legacy. It outlives you. So maybe in your lifetime and even the next, meaning like for, let's say, the next couple generations, your book will still be in existence, and it could touch God knows how many people, but as long as it touches
Mhm.
the one that it was meant to touch. That was my journey as I wrote.
So, what I think is so amazing and what I love, there are a couple of things I want to unpack that you said. I'm going to try and remember them. But not too long ago in last season, I had a whole episode about having your why. and why
Mm.
that's important. And kind of, and when I revisited it, because it was something I learned like 8 years ago and I kind of forgotten about it, even though it lives in
Mm.
me, right? But actually
Yes.
sitting down and doing the mechanics of it is very
Mm.
powerful. And so what I love that you said was you have your why and attach it to a who. Who is it
Mhm.
for?
Mhm.
Knowing your your audience, knowing your, because that to me ties into, drives at the heart of your calling. Because for me,
Mhm.
it's women and mothers. Mothers, I like to say women and mothers, and people might think that weird, but I feel like I have to say it because I don't
Mhm.
want women to feel like I don't have a message for them. I do. I definitely
Mhm.
do. But I also really, my heart is for moms, right? Because that's my
Mhm.
story. And so, really driving home how important it is to know who you're talking to. When you said that you had to work through some of the trauma that was just in your blood, that
Mhm.
because it was just it happened to your mom, it happened to your grandmom, it happened, whatever was in your family lineage. What you really touched on there, and what I would like to point out, is that that's a spiritual trauma.
Mm.
That's
Oh,
a
yeah.
spiritual warfare trauma. And what's so important to acknowledge, and we don't need to get into that today, but that's a whole nother episode. But what's so important to acknowledge is that there are things that we inherit that we don't want to inherit. And it has to be fought in a spiritual way, not in a physical way. And the more that we're willing to, for some people don't want to hear that. That's a hard
Mhm.
thing to hear.
Mhm.
I've been on a journey where that was hard for me to hear at one point, and I've
Mm.
come to realize it's true. And the more that we're willing to see that things that we're dealing with are on a spiritual level, who our real enemy is. Like
Oh,
Corinthians, isn't it
yes.
Corinthians that says it when it talks about the armor of God, that it's not
Mhm.
against
In the
flesh and
book of
blood?
Ephesians. Yes. No, it's not.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Really understanding
Yes.
who our enemy is.
Absolutely. And that helps us to show others compassion
Mm,
because some people have mother and father wounds, which I had at one point. I was 20 something years old. I had all of my children between my 20s and 30s, and I was birthing them with so much resentment in my heart toward my own mom. And I had to ask myself, what is happening? And do I want this to be passed on to my own children? So, yes, understanding that we're wrestling not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and spiritual wickedness in high places,
mm,
against the rulers of the darkness of this world. And then we're able to have compassion for others. And I think the most powerful is that we're able to give that compassion to ourselves,
mm,
especially as we go through our own healing journey, because it's very easy to dwell in the realm of judgment.
mm,
I shoulda, coulda, woulda done differently. Why was this my choice? I should be further along in life. Why did my mom? Why did my dad? Why did blah, 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 blah? But then to be able to say, we're human beings in need of a real savior. And the blood of Jesus is able to cleanse all of us from all unrighteousness. And it's more powerful than our sin. It's more powerful than our shame, more powerful than our guilt.
I know y'all didn't know this, but we're running short on time today. So we're gonna have Azure back. But what I want to do, like our final thoughts before we wrap up today, I would love for you to tell my listeners what's on the horizon for you, because we've talked, and I would love for you to share some of the things that you have kind of running in the background that I am really excited about for you.
Thank you. I'm excited too.
Yes, tell us.
Um, so I look forward to creating sacred spaces for women through a coaching course that I'm currently almost completed. Um, I'm looking forward to actually not just creating the space through the course, which is an online community, but also in person. So I'll be hosting day retreats, weekend retreats for people who are looking to really align their love. So, as I said earlier, I am a relationship coach.
Mhm.
So, in all that I've experienced, and we will talk more about the next part of my journey, which led me to become a relationship coach specifically. But I enjoy being a hope curator.
Mm,
So, helping people experience hope in the midst of devastation, specifically in their relationships, or just gather tools that maybe could spice up their life and give them a little more joy as they go forth in their love.
mm.
So, that's on the horizon, as well as a podcast,
Yes.
which is being formed and created, as well as my next book. So there are many things in the works. This is going to be a busy summer, but I'm all for it, and I can't wait to just touch the lives of women, especially when it comes to their relationships. And let me just say this, I'm talking about relationships, but it's really about the relationship that we have with ourselves.
Okay, well, so if one of my listeners wanted to get a hold of you, do
Mhm.
you have like can they find you on social media? Do you have any like a website or anything set up yet? Or do we have to kind of be like a rain check that right now?
So they can find me on social media, but I'd say the best way to get in touch with me and get an immediate response would be via email.
Okay.
So I do have a azuremlove@gmail.com email, and that's Azure, A-Z as in zebra, U-R-E, M as in Mary, love, azuremlove@gmail.com. And if they reach out to me, I can't wait and look forward to actually connecting with your listeners. Well, thank you so much again, and we will talk offline.
Yes. Y'all have a great day. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.